Hey there, Win-Win Nation. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle L. Forbes, and it's a pleasure to have you joining us again here on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. Not sure how it is where you're at, but we're so blessed to have some beautiful, bright sunshine here on in Toronto, Canada. Finally, like seriously, finally. I'm kid you not. Winter when it comes seems like it's like we don't want to let go. Like I don't want to let go. Like let me. Yeah, there's this tug of war every year. Winter does not want to let go, but I think we can safely say it's gone, and we're having beautiful, bright sunshine. We're able to see the blue sky again. I went outside just to look at the blue sky yesterday. Yeah, not all white and clouds. So I'm very grateful. How are you doing this afternoon? It's such a pleasure to have you here, and I'm so stoked and looking forward to the guest that we have here with us this afternoon. Just let me share with you a bit about our guest for today on Meet the Creator series. Meet the Creator, Jeremy Rochford. Jeremy Rochford is a certified personal trainer, corporate fitness trainer, and corporate fitness specialist. He His entrance into the weight loss fitness field came by way of his success of not only losing 200 pounds, but also keeping it off. That's key. Keeping it off over 15 years. He has been developing custom weight loss programs and guiding others towards their own success for over 10 years and specializes in body positive and emotionally and physiologically supported weight loss. That is innovation right there. He is actively involved in the study of fitness, nutrition, and yoga by having a well rounded understanding of the entire weight loss process, not only as a person, but also as a professional. There are few more qualified to guide you through your weight loss journey. While in Nashville, he established the Nashville Wellness Academy, which is a cutting edge approach to sustainable weight loss that blends the three main conflicts one must address while attempting to lose weight. He's now brought that proven approach to satisfied wellness weight loss mentee program nationwide. Please help us today as we welcome not only the creator of the Nashville Wellness Academy, but of Rochford Wellness Academy, also of the weight loss mentorship weight loss program, as well as the author of The Gospel According to Chubby, as well as TED Talk speaker. And The Gospel According to Chubby is not just another published book, but it's a best-selling book. Please help us welcome here with us today, Jeremy Rochford. And I hope I didn't butcher your last name, please.
No, I am. I know we've talked before, but we've never talked phonetics, and you
Yes.
crushed it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing because so many people are like Rochford, Rockford. I'm like, those letters don't make that sound. But you, like phonetically, Rochford, boom, you nailed
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. You're most welcome, Jeremy. It's a pleasure having you here today. And I'm truly honored to be able to sit and just to have you share your story, your journey as a creator.
Well,
So, the
thank
first question I wanted to throw at you today is how does it feel to be a creator? Of all the things that you have been dabbled with your hands in creating, how does it feel to be a creator?
I never thought about it honestly until now because as you were going through all the things that I've established, I
Yeah.
think you get so busy doing it
Yeah.
that when you read it off in sort of an introduction, it's like, wow, I need to slow down. I'm just doing way too much. Like, but no, like it's edifying and I think it's fantastic in a few ways. One, to to look back at all the things that, as you get older, you kind of move into legacy, like what's the difference I've made.
Yeah.
I can look back and say, I've started to establish the resources that I wish I had when I was going through the struggle.
Awesome. Yeah.
And no matter what season of life I'm in, whether it's a growth season or a growth or coast season, like, those resources are always going to be there, and no one can take that away. And
Absolutely.
so I think for me, it feels edifying, but it feels deeper because I know that when things come to the end, I can go before the throne and being like, well, I've done everything you've asked me to do.
I love that. Mm. When things come deeper, you can always go before the throne and say, I've done everything you've asked me to do. I love that. Now, one of the things that came to mind, even as I would have read your bio before and even reading your bio again now, where you specifically, it was written specifically that you have a three-man approach to how you go about serving your clients, yourself, and others in the service that you offer, as you would have created your wellness centers. But before we even go there, I know that you said that your approach is you specialize in positive, body positive, emotionally and physiologically or logically supported weight loss. Can you give us some insight on that, as to is that the three approach the three main conflicts that you focus on?
It led to, so it started during the TED Talk when we were doing research, a
Mhm.
little behind the scenes for those who like to nerd out on TED Talks.
Yes.
We were asked to find talks that we either agree with or disagree with,
Yes.
try to mention them in our talk to boost ratings for everyone. Because if
Yes.
I say I agree with this, you're going to go look for it. If I say I disagree with this, I'm going to go look for it. And
Yes.
I never had the time, like I had to take a 30-minute talk and make it 15 minutes. So the actual talk didn't make my talk, but the disagreement did. And the disagreement, and I forget who the individual was at this point, but her whole concept was, can you be big and beautiful? And what broke my heart about it was that it's the right answer to the wrong question.
Mm.
Because no matter how great you feel about yourself,
Yes.
science is going to hold you accountable for what you choose to do. So you can look in the mirror and be like, oh, yeah. But if you're structurally carrying around 50 or 100 pounds more than your body was designed to,
Yes.
your knees are going to let you know. Your back, in my case, let me know. And
Mm.
so the concept of trying to tie weight loss to vanity is what made me gain all my weight when I first lost it the first time. And separating it and making it more about the act of worship and stewardship
Yes.
is what allowed me to keep it off. And in helping individuals, I learned that there were three things that I focused on that allowed me to overcome it. And most people do one of them, which is why they gain the weight back. So
Mm.
if you are a fan of movies or stories, then you're
Yeah.
probably going to be familiar with this,
Yes.
especially if you like the hero's journey.
Yes.
Three major conflicts that we face during weight loss are the external conflicts, the internal conflicts,
Mm-hmm.
and the philosophical conflicts.
Okay.
So we've
Mm.
got the external conflict of nutrition and exercise and all of those things that
Yes.
most people give weight loss advice on.
Yes.
If you really think about it, and I mean like really think about it,
Mm-hmm.
most people who give weight loss advice have never lost weight.
True.
They look the part and man, they've got some things we want,
Yes.
minus the experience. And so a lot of people don't know the internal struggle of what it looks like to feel like they're shackled to the scale or like they're identified by a number, whether it's the scale, a pant size, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, though, is the philosophical struggle, especially if you love Christ,
Mm-hmm.
because far too often that doesn't make an appearance.
Mm.
in our process. If you look at the
True.
popular church, is there a collective response to it? Quite often there isn't. And so we send people outside the walls of the church for a solution that really only Christ can provide.
That's correct.
And so when I started to understand that not only did I have the order backwards, but some of my process was missing when I tried it the first time,
Yes.
I was able to go, okay, what's really going on here? And so for me, I did a great job of separating and compartmentalizing my life. And so I'd give my finances to my faith, or I'd give my purity to my faith, but
Mm.
I never gave my weight in wellness. And
So you never gave your weight to your faith.
yeah, I never looked at my body
Yeah.
or the way I treated myself,
Yes.
the internal talk, as an act of worship. Even down to love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Well,
Mhm.
I would say things about myself that I'd never say about my neighbor. Right? And most people don't think about it that way. I mean,
Yes.
think about yourself. And no, not to kind of put you on the hot seat, but
No
how many
problem.
times, and to the listeners as well, how many times have we said something about ourselves that we'd never say to our best friend, or we'd never say to someone we love?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I feel like we're all guilty of that. But
mm-hmm.
isn't that in contrast? Because if you're supposed to
Yes.
love your neighbor as yourself and you're not loving yourself as your neighbor,
Mm.
and that's when I started to go, okay, if that's true, then I need to give myself more grace.
Mm.
And but grace doesn't mean leeway. It means patience to me. It
Yes.
means understanding.
Yes.
And so when I took a step back and I was like, where did the struggle really start?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it started by not making my health and wellness journey an act of worship or an act of stewardship.
Mm.
Once I made that and my identity was clear, that then gave me the ability to have a much different focus on the internal conversations.
Yes. Yes.
And by
So
having, right? And so by having the sanity to have a healthy mindset,
yes.
that allowed me to actually enact upon the external solutions.
Mm.
For far too long, whether I was taught or whether I assumed, but I tried to hate myself thin. And it just doesn't work.
Mm.
But there's always typically a polarity
Yes.
taught where it's either you love yourself or you got to be skinny. And it's like, well, if your body is designed to have nourishment,
Yes.
there's nothing more self care than giving your body what it needs,
Nourishment. Yeah.
which is the amount of hydration, the
Yeah.
amount of naturally occurring nutrients from fruits and vegetables,
Yes.
all the things that we typically associate with the dreaded diet word
Yes.
that is really self care
Yes.
that we tend to neglect ourselves from.
Mm.
And so it's those three things in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important that I say in tandem because a lot
Yes.
of times we'll get one of the three,
Mm-hmm.
or we'll even get two of the three.
Mm-hmm.
But we need all of the three.
Correct. Correct. Wow. Jeremy, that is so powerful that you share that. And even as you touched on your own story, so it's you coming to realization, but I've never really looked at this is an act of worship. And even as you said, your weight loss journey, um, or your health and wellness journey, I right then my mind like switch. Wonder if we should maybe even mention it more like a lifestyle, because often when we go on a journey you stop, you end the journey, but then it is more. And even as you're talking and my mind is just reflecting even on Jesus's way of lifestyle, it's more that he is after establishing this is the way, because his name, one of the definition, I am the way. And it is establishing a way of lifestyle. And even as I listen to you, though you say journey, I'm seeing that it's a lifestyle that you're looking to establish for yourself. And whosoever will say, okay, Jeremy, I'd like for you to assist, that you're helping them to establish a lifestyle that worships God without any restrictions to say, okay, only in this, but not in this. And that is really powerful. That definitely indeed is a different way to be looking at weight loss. Never heard it like that before. Never
Nice.
heard it like that before. And how do you, so if you're in circles where persons will be looking at, and even as you made mention of that young woman who made, branded it a certain way, what what is your response, not only verbally, if you do give response, but what is your internal response when you would hear persons, speak of weight loss as it is normally spoken of? What is your immediate like response internally, and then externally if you're given an opportunity to share?
My first response is curiosity,
Mm,
because hopefully this comes off as well spoken.
yeah.
That's not for me to judge, but I was not always well spoken. I was not always well learned.
Okay.
And as the human I am, I was quick to judge at some point. But
Mm.
the things I speak of now are from the hard lessons of life. And
Ah,
I didn't always know what I know now.
yes.
And so I look at a lot of the individuals who will say things that they feel are helpful,
Mm.
but really are not the whole story.
Okay. Yes.
I try to have more patience. Now,
Okay. Love
there
that.
is a time where healthy conversation needs to be had,
Yes.
because if you give people half truths,
Mm-hmm.
it still could be very damaging.
Yes.
Going back to the example, if all you're teaching is self-care through no accountability,
Mm-hmm.
and you develop a bad back or arthritis in your knees,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really self-care.
No.
So again, should you love yourself? 100%. But I
Absolutely.
think you must love yourself in all ways.
Yes.
And so when I hear things that are like, I wonder where they're going. Like I'm curious to see, will they
Okay.
bring it back,
Yeah. Yeah.
or are they going to leave it incomplete and maybe they just don't know?
Ah. Okay. Yep. Do you find in your experience, and in your exposure, that it is more a case of they don't know, or this is just what I choose to put forth?
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't believe people are maliciously intent.
Yes.
I do believe there's a myriad of ignorance.
Okay. Lack of
And,
knowledge.
and I'll use myself as an example. I've got two autistic children, and until I understood autism,
Mm-hmm.
my mind was over here.
Mm.
Now I understand autism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here,
Wow.
and I realized how much I didn't learn in the first 38 years of my life as it pertained to autism.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, in the same way with health and wellness, I feel like we'll find things that work for us or very
Yes.
important to us,
Yes.
and we'll latch on as if that's the only way.
Yes. Yes.
But
Mm.
having not only helped myself, but now helped other people,
Yes.
I can see that foundations of what I've done can help everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are certain things that are unique only to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I work with people, it's a customizable approach, because there are scientific standards.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the science of weight loss that everyone must adhere to.
Yes.
How they apply it to their lives is what I call the art of weight loss, which
Mm.
is different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love.
so, to the heart of the question, it's curiosity, it's wondering where they're going with it,
Yes.
and giving them the grace to explain how and why they feel it,
Yes.
from the bias and the lens of, I don't think they're trying to hurt anyone. They
Yes.
may just not know the rest of the story.
Yes. Mm. Nice. I love it. For as it pertains to your story, and how is it that you are now in this place where you serve people based on that which once was a pain point for you? How did you make it through those years when you were just going through the grind as it pertains to you? What was it that helped you keep it together to be able to go through each day that you wake up and you have to go forth and to, relate with others, and is now at the place where you could look back and you could even take lessons from there to serve in the here and now?
I feel from the weight loss side, I had gotten to a point where, and this is personal, I'm not saying this is for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt very convicted by my size. And I'll give you an example. I went to school at a secular college,
Mm-hmm.
and we were right next to a rugby lacrosse team
Mm-hmm.
where we lived. And I was leading campus worship. I was a worship leader
Mm-hmm.
at a secular school.
Yay.
This is right after I gained all my weight back plus more. So
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of context. I lost 120 pounds in my senior year of high school. Within 3.5 years, I gained it all back,
Oh,
which so I had to lose 200.
yeah.
In that in between, when I was at the height of my gaining back, one of the captains comes up to me. He's like, "Dude, I don't want to start any trouble, but this is your third time to the buffet, and if your God can't save you from that, maybe you shouldn't talk to my team about their alcohol situations." And I was like, because he was true, right? Like I going back to the compartmentalized side of things, I did so good over there, what I felt was good.
Yeah.
But over here, I thought this was my personal struggle. Like nobody knew.
Yeah.
And I think what is so frustrating for those who do struggle with weight, who do struggle with body image scenarios, we don't get to hide our struggles. If your struggle is pornography, you can hide that. If your struggle is alcoholism, you can hide that. If your struggle is drug, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But when food is your comfort,
Mm.
you can't hide that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on display for everyone.
True.
And so I was called out for it because what he saw was my words of faith and self control and love wasn't coming across through my actions.
Mm-hmm. It was a
Because he
contradiction.
took it was very much so because he's like,
Mm-hmm.
because he was an athlete and he knew what physical fitness mattered to his life.
Whoa.
And he's like, y'all saying you love yourself, but dude, no one needs 3 waffles for breakfast.
Mm.
Sorry, bro. Like whipped cream is not on the hierarchy of things you ought to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so going through to lose the weight, what was very sustainable was the fact
Yes.
that, well, this is an act of worship. I never want to misrepresent God again in
Mm.
the way that I have.
Wow.
And when it comes to helping other individuals, so many people that I've met don't even know that this type of mentality exists.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to the box of, okay, we're going on a diet. Okay, we have to hate what we're about to do. We've got to starve ourselves. We can't have like all the things that I know fail
Mm-hmm.
is what they're used to. And I tried so many of it. I went on my first diet when I was 5. And so, yeah, like, so when I say I've struggled with my weight my entire life, just about -5 years, right? I'm 41 now, and I make the joke that I've got 35 years experience. I spent the first half of my life knowing how to gain it well,
Yeah.
and the second half of my life knowing how to lose it well.
Wow.
And so what sustains me in helping individuals and sort of growing out my practice with the Rochford Wellness Academy
Yes.
is how much time I could have saved myself
Mm-hmm.
if I knew that these thought processes and these methods existed.
True.
And so for me, it's how can I let everyone know
Mm-hmm.
so that they can stop suffering?
Yes.
Because typically I work with busy professionals and they got a lot of stuff going on,
Yes.
whether it's their job, their parenting, their spousing, their ministry, and
Yes.
they don't need more stuff to try to figure out.
That's true.
And so I just kind of come in and I'm like, look, this is what we're going to do. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. I'm going to build you a plan because I've got my personal training certification. I've got my nutrition certification. So going back to there's things we're going to do that are non-negotiable.
Yes.
So much about what we're going to do is negotiable.
Awesome.
So those are the things that have sustained me through it and through now.
Awesome. Some things are just going off even as you're sharing. And there's one word that you mentioned earlier, and that is a word that, God has been dealing with me through in terms of being accountable stewardship.
Mm.
And so even as you shared just now, it popped back in my mind, stewardship. Can you share some more as to when you make mention of stewardship as it pertains to weight loss, weight gain, or just leading and living a healthy life? How exactly do you factor and bring that in? Where it's relatable to folks, whether it be your clients or whether it be a speaking engagement that you are invited to. How do you bring that across to them to realize this is also stewardship?
Well, we talked about humor, and so I try to. I'm sighing because I'm gonna give you an example, and it might hit home for some people. And so for me, I'm a huge fan of really understanding how we got here, because to me, the worst part
Mm.
of all of this is not knowing. And
Yes.
so I'll have a lot of people who will say, I think it's genetics. I think it's genetics. I've I've tried everything, and I'll be like, your
I'm,
phone
yeah,
showed you door dashed 5 times this week. I don't think genetics has anything to do with
I'm
that.
big boned. I'm big
Right,
boned.
exactly. I'm big bone. You're like, well, okay, so am I, but it's the right, okay.
Yeah.
But like, it's trying to have the conversation of I don't have time. Well, great. Well, let's look at the 24 hours of how you're using your time.
Mm-hmm.
About that, right? Like, I don't have the money. Well, if you just take the money you're spending on fast foods and snacks
Mm-hmm.
and apply it to your health instead of away from your health,
Mm-hmm.
it actually doesn't cost you any more to live healthy.
Wow.
You're just allocating what you think you don't have differently.
True.
So it's taking a good hard look at the two main excuses. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have time, I don't have money. I
Mm-hmm.
can't pay $30 for a salad. Well, if you didn't spend so much time on your fantasy football, you could go shopping for a salad at the grocery store, and that same salad's not going to cost you $2, which is cheaper than McDonald's, by the way. So
Yes.
how's it more expensive to eat healthy? And so it's looking at it through the stewardship lens of, am
Mm.
I stewarding my time well? And I'm not
Ooh.
throwing fantasy football under the bus. Don't get me wrong.
Yes. Yes.
We
Yes.
talked about
Yes.
Toronto. Like, I love Toronto. I love hockey. Playoffs coming up.
Yes.
But I better make sure that what God has called me to do is done first.
Mm.
And then I'm going to watch the Maple Leafs. Then I'm going to watch the sports I love. Then I'm going to do that. But far too often we have it out of order.
Yes.
It's, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to try to do this. But
Yes.
this is the most important. And we marginalize the things that are most important in our lives. And we tend to give away so much good time and good resources
Yes.
to things that don't really matter. I
True.
mean, 30 years from now, are you going to really wish you watched more of your Netflix watch list? Are you going to really wish you liked more cat videos on
Yes.
Instagram or TikTok?
Yes.
Or when you get to the end, are you going to go, you know what? I
Mm.
added an extra 15 years to my life because I started eating vegetables every day. Or I was able to walk my daughter down the aisle instead of being in a walker because I decided to do physical activity.
Yes.
And so looking at it from the stewardship lens of saying, again, not legalistic, but
Mm-hmm.
am I doing the best with what's been entrusted in me? Am I scheduling my time for what I say is important? Am I having the right priorities? Which factors back into how we talked about it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those standards where we all have 24 hours. How are you using it? And are you
Absolutely.
using it to support your goals or take you further away?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I bring stewardship in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I think it's very relatable with the I've tried everything. Well, cool. Let me see your journal for the past 6 weeks. I ain't been journaling, but then you're not trying everything, right? But
Mm.
it's those little cut to the heart moments that I had to deal with myself,
Yes.
because it's like I for years I struggled, and I was like, I'm smart, like I should be able to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally took 2 weeks and just started writing down, and I was eating like 7,000 calories a day.
So you started tracking
I
yourself.
started tracking just for the sake of going like, what is actually going on here?
Yeah.
And I was eating between 5 and 7,000 calories a day.
Wow.
And if we're only supposed to have 2,000 calories, and of that 2,000, a majority of it being fresher, nourishing foods, If it was a spectrum, I was on the woo redlining, not fantastic part of it.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow. Jeremy, thank you so much for being transparent.
Yeah.
Because so often we have persons who show the accolades but not share. When persons who are in the grind, they're like, but how did you get there? And even as you share, Jeremy, one of the questions that I have to ask is, how was it for you? Because right away, even as you're sharing, it comes back to memory how easily we stretch forth a helping hand to help others with the challenges and the issues they're going through. And sometimes we ourselves are going through that challenge and that issue. But when it comes around to the physician helping the physician themselves, is like, but it piqued my interest as I hear you share. Like, even as you mentioned that 2 weeks that you intentionally took to basically just track you and what it is that you've been doing. How did you come to that point where, okay, it's now time for me to help me? Like really turn the spotlight inward and do some searching and make a decision. Where am I going from here? How was that for you? Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah, it started in a few different phases.
Mm-hmm.
So the first phase was in high school, and I honestly, just being honest, it started out of spite. I was angry of who I had become. I
Mm,
was tired of being the fat kid. I had been the
yeah.
fat kid since I was 5.
Okay.
That led me down a path of losing 120 pounds in 9 months. But when I got to that arbitrary number,
Mm-hmm.
I was no longer angry. There was nothing fueling me. So I
Mm,
gained it all back in 3.5 years.
mm.
And that's when I started having the conflict with people who
Yes.
were questioning my faith. So internally, it was either, well, do I actually believe in what I say I believe, or is this just a facade?
Yes.
But in the deepest realm of my heart, I really did believe
Yes.
Christ is the way.
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then I should act like it.
Mm,
And as I started to try to live it out as an act of stewardship, as an act of
mm.
worship, as an act of bringing balance to my life, which had been very much in excess. You don't just accidentally get to 400 pounds.
Yeah. True.
That's where I started to say, like, wow, like you get to 300 pounds, and you're like, I lost 100 pounds. I
Yes.
could do this. What else can I do? And
Yes.
then you start getting to 250, and now you can walk into Walmart or Target or wherever and just pull clothes off the shelves. And
Yes.
it's like, oh my goodness, I forgot how good it felt to just go to a store and put on clothes that fit, because so
Mm.
much of my life was hoping something fit and
Wow.
then buying something you hated just because of the fact that it was the only thing that fit.
Wow.
There were spans of life where I would have 2 or 3 pairs of pants for everything because that's all that fit.
Mm.
And so to get to a point where it wasn't a question of, is this going to fit? It's, well, am I going to be the large or the extra large? Am I going to be the medium? Who knows? It's going to be fantastic. And so coming to the point of, and I was actually having this conversation with a friend who I've been working with yesterday, because I got to see him for the first time in a few months. We've been doing things virtually.
Okay.
I got to see him for the first time. He's lost 64 pounds. And
Awesome.
a
Good
year
job.
ago, right? I
Yeah.
get so
Yeah.
much, so excited for him.
Yeah.
But when I used to see him, he would roll up with a bag full of Doritos and things like that. Now I saw him, he rolled up with a 6 pack of vitamin water, but not the flavored, but just my fault, smart water. Sorry, smart water. And
Wow.
I'm just like, look at this difference. And he's like, bro, I don't even miss it. I'm like, now, I want your opinion on this. He's like, sure. I'm like, I'll tell you what I think is wrong, and I want you to let me know if I'm wrong or if I need rebuked. I was like, I think you're experiencing what people mean to say when they say nothing tastes as good as thin feels. Where I think they get it wrong is they say thin, but what they mean is accomplishment. So what I think they mean to say is nothing tastes as good as accomplishment feels. And that could be different for everyone.
Yes.
He's like, dude, you said it. He's like, because even on the store, like I passed the hot dogs, I passed all the stuff I used to get. And I'm
Yes.
like, this doesn't taste as good as putting on that shirt I put on last week.
Wow.
Like, this isn't going to taste as good as not being out of breath when I step on the ice.
I love
Like,
it.
and I'm like that, right? And I think that differentiator that he and I got to talk about
Yes.
is where society gets it wrong,
Yes.
but we have the chance to get it right.
Yes.
They put happiness with a number, and they put
Mhm.
happiness on a body type. And I think that sets you up for failure because, and I'll, anyone who wants to talk about this, please, this is a dialogue, not a I'm
Yes.
looking at you. But there have been times in my life where I was larger than I should have been,
Mhm.
and I felt great. And there were times where I was my thinnest, and I felt I was so fat. And it's like,
Whoa.
right?
Whoa.
Now, let me follow this. And I find this as a pattern with a lot of people that I work with,
Yes.
because we'll have the joke where, because I'm 41 now, and so I work with a lot of people, 35 to 55, because that's kind of my life right now.
Yes.
And I'll talk with people, and they're like, I was looking at pictures of my 20s. I wish I looked as I felt I was fat then. And it's like, ooh, there's something to talk about.
Whoa. Yes.
And to make it even deeper, I'll have a lot of this conversation with a lot of my female clients when we're first talking. And I'll ask them, like, what does happiness look like to you? And they'll go, well, I just want to have my pre-baby body back. And I'll ask them, let's be honest, were you happy then when you had that body?
Great question.
And not a single person said yes.
Whoa.
They always felt they were fat then.
Seriously.
Seriously. And I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. So if you want to go back to a time that you knew you weren't happy, why is that going to make you happy now? And that's where we get to really open up the conversation of,
Yep.
let's dismantle what
Yes.
society tells us we
Yeah.
should have.
Yes.
And let's talk about what you want to have.
Yes.
And most people don't want to look like they look like in their 20s, but they want to feel like they could. They want to feel that vigor of
Yes.
not being winded when they go upstairs. They want to feel that vigor of being able to shop in
Yes.
appropriate sizes.
Yes. Yes.
And so for me, sort of coming back to the whole topic of,
Yes.
right? So it's having those conversations, those deep conversations, to really ask, like, what is going on here?
Yes.
And how do we make it personal for us?
I note as you, thank you very much, Jeremy, for answering. And I love that how you're sharing and the depth to which you're, giving the content. I love I note when you shared on the stewardship that you made mention of time and resources. How was that in dealing with individuals? How was that in terms of them accepting or being open to look at, let's get to the meat of the matter, let's unravel, and you mentioned just now, dismantle this thing and see exactly what is at play here. How open or unopen were persons to looking at, it's not so much of I don't have time or I don't have the resources, but there's something else at play here.
The initial wave of it is you get the surface level answer.
Okay. Yeah, kind of like to brush you off. Like let's focus on I just want to lose weight.
What's exactly it? And that's what honestly makes what I do so different.
Yes.
Is most people will come in, they're like, okay, you're overweight. Here's a meal plan. Here's some exercises.
Mm.
And that's the science of weight loss. And that is
Yes.
important.
Yes.
But much like the conversation you asked earlier, when someone's giving incomplete advice, you ask, like, how do you react?
Yes.
I know there's more.
Yes.
Because I've never met a single person who wants to lose weight for the sake of losing weight.
Okay.
They want to lose weight for what weight loss can afford them.
Yes.
What is that? Is it the esteem? Is it the self-confidence?
Yes.
And what's keeping you from that?
Yes.
And I've had a lot of people have really good cries. I'm sorry, but like, why not? Like, because very, very few people can understand the plight of what it feels like. A lot of people say they understand, but until you've been there.
Yes.
And so we'll have the surface level conversation and then we'll go deeper. And
Yes.
it's very important to note, when I work with individuals, it's very much of the I'm on your side. Let's figure this out together. And I'm curious because you say this.
Yes.
But then if we look over here, we have this.
Yes.
I mean, I know I look like Jimmy Neutron, so I might not be understanding some things. Help me understand how both of these are true.
Yep. Yep.
And normally it's a, well, when you put it that way.
Yeah.
But it's different because, and again, not to try to come at it like this,
Mm-hmm.
I can ask questions that very few people can because I've experienced things to the depth that very few people have.
Yes.
So when people do have emotional eating in their past or their present, when people do have traumas and certain things in their life,
Yes.
I can go, well, hold on. You're saying 4 out of 5 things that make sense. It feels like if we ask about this fifth thing, that
Mm-hmm.
because that fifth thing existing is the only thing that makes all this make sense.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we get to have those questions, and more often than not, there's this pause with a, how did you know?
Mm.
I've never shared this with but 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it, for me, it's just experience of being like,
Yeah.
well, because this, and this are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things don't happen. But then it's also the grace and the compassion of wisdom of being like, look, I'm not going to judge you. I don't, going back to what we said about earlier, like if
Mm-hmm.
you had Domino's 3 times this week,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ecstatic,
Mm-hmm.
but we can as adults go, that's why you're not losing weight. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're eating a weight maintenance mentality and expecting weight loss.
Mm.
What
Repeat that, please, Jeremy. Say that
Yeah,
again.
you're eating with a weight maintenance mentality, but you're expecting weight loss.
Ah,
And I
wow.
think that's where a lot of people find the value in the conversations we have
Yes.
is a lot of people, I mean, 70% of this country, in America at least, I don't know what the Canadian statistics are, but
Okay.
are overweight.
Yes.
So a lot of people will stop eating what they did to gain weight,
Mm.
but then they'll expect to lose weight. Well, no, now you're just not gaining. But what they'll think is, I'm trying everything and I'm not losing, nothing works. And it's like, well, no. You're not gaining. So your changes are not for naught. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
But now we just got to take it to the next level because
Yeah.
you've stopped doing the stuff that causes you to gain.
Yes.
What's the next step to lose? That's where a lot of people get stuck is they stop halfway
Yes. Yes.
and they get frustrated and they don't have a friend or an ally to be like, no, this is fantastic. We're still
Yes.
good.
It is.
But if we want to go over here, these are the things we need to do. It's like
Mhm.
someone who does 2 years of schooling and expects a 4-year degree. It's
Yes.
like, hold up, no, you're halfway there, and that's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, let's finish the degree.
Yes. 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 I love the analogy that came in right there. Wow. So I have a question for you, Jeremy, and then I'm gonna ask you to just share with me what's the journey been like
Mm,
being in a place where you are now being hands and feet of God extended to others to worship Him in this aspect as it pertains to your temple, really, what it is. But you mentioned something earlier and you said one of the first things you say to your clients is, I'm on your side. I laughed. I thought that it's strategic, but also powerful because when you begin to dig deep, it is touching on some painful things, some things that maybe them themselves have never acknowledged, either internally or out loud to anybody. And like, who are you? Are you asking me to like, yeah. So that I found is just key that you establish that first on. I'm on your side. It may get a bit rocky, but just remember, I'm on your side. Yep. So as you shared just now, and thank you again. I really appreciate the depth of which you go as you share and just being very open. What I would love for you to share is what has it been like for you as you see you are being used to impact the lives of others, where it's adding years to their lives, where they can now show up and be present for themselves, for their families, for their extended, for their ministry, for their business, whatever it is, whatever arena it is. What is that like for you?
It's been challenging and elating. The
Hmm.
challenge has been I get lumped in with a lot of other people who offer weight loss and wellness.
Okay. Mm.
And so that's a challenge because people are quick to judge what I actually do.
Yeah.
And then we'll have conversations, or if we'll work together, they'll go, "Oh my gosh, this is so different. I'm losing weight. I don't hate it. This is fun. This is amazing." Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, yes, yes. And
Yes.
that's where the elation comes in of showing
Yes.
like there's a different way to do this. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be drudgery.
Yes.
So having those conversations, seeing people's lives changed and having not just years but quality to those years of life, it's hard to explain,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the way that we as believers feel when we're walking in the call.
Mm. Come
And
on.
I can't
Come
explain it,
on.
but I know we've all felt it.
Come on. Yeah.
Right? Like that's how it feels. It's like
Yeah.
this is why I'm here.
Yes.
Yes, at times it's been frustrating, but all of those frustrations is what
Yeah.
I needed to learn to know this
Yes.
to the point like and my mom gives me a hard time because of how open I am.
Okay.
And she's being mom and I love her.
Yes. Yes.
She's like, people are gonna know. I'm like, but they need to. But I'm like, to your point, I don't think it's fair for me to ask people to be vulnerable
Mm.
if I'm not first vulnerable.
Come on. True.
And so that was the whole origin of the book. That's why the Gospel According to Chubby came out,
Yes.
because it was a double entendre. You know, gospel's a firsthand account,
Yes.
but it's my firsthand account. And
Mm.
so it's me at my lowest,
Yes.
so that when you see Jeremy the success story,
Yes.
you can also see, but here's what the dare I say failure that it took to get here.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be the here without that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like when people say that the Lord is the great recycler. I feel like that's a really good example. You know,
Mm.
to some people, my life was trash because of how much I struggled with obesity. But now I'm repurposed and I'm not going back to that.
Mm. Love it.
And that's the elation that I get to help other people in that transformation. Like you said, journey. It's a journey, but it's helping people walk along that journey.
Mm.
It's getting them to a place where they arrive at one place and then they get to reassess. Hey, I've lost 50 pounds. What do I want to do now? Maybe
Yes.
I've seen people start kayaking because they didn't know how much they loved it because they couldn't fit into a kayak.
Wow.
I've seen people become roller coaster enthusiasts because they couldn't fit. And once they were able to fit, they loved it. I have people who now love to travel who hated traveling because they used to have to buy 2 seats on the airplane. And it's just like those are the situations where you're like, this is more than a number. This is
Absolutely.
more than just being thin.
Absolutely.
It's chasing that feeling of knowing that for the rest of my life, I've done something that no one can take away from me.
Mm.
And that's the feeling. I go back to my friend of nothing tastes as good as accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing tastes as good as going to the store and buying something off the shelf. Nothing tastes as good as being able to fit into the roller coaster without you feeling you're being clamped in painfully.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the things that you can't synthesize.
Yes.
And those are the things that I love seeing people get to experience. And I'm humbled to help them get there.
Mm.
They do the work. I just say, don't do these things.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Wow. Wow. Please, Jeremy, can you share? And you touched on, because the book is what I was going to ask you next, like to give us an insight as to what is within the pages, but you shared so that it's basically your testimony, your story. So if you want to go ahead and give a bit more on that, but I'd also like for you to share, like, what are you working on now? What is it that persons can look forward to from the creations that you have already created or is in the process of creating?
So much good stuff. I'm working on the second book
Yes.
because there's a follow up. So
Awesome.
the when people hear I've lost 200 pounds, they typically have a few questions. How did you lose it? How can I lose some?
Hmm.
And the third, which is, how did you get so large that you needed to lose that much weight in the first place?
Mm. No, no, nobody asked how did you keep it off?
Some do, but that's part of
Okay.
the first part. That's part of
Okay.
the first question is how'd you lose it?
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So what Shelby does is it sets that stage of how did we get to the point that I needed to lose this much weight.
Yes.
The second book is going to take the framework of my coaching and mentorship program
Mm-hmm.
and make it self-study.
Mm.
Because there are some people who have the deepest motivation and they don't need someone walking alongside of them.
Yes.
So
True.
I want to get them the information in book and in online course form.
Awesome.
So I'm working on how to make that make the most sense.
Yes.
But there are other people who they need and they want that person to talk to every week or to
Yes.
just text them on a daily basis to just
Yes.
say, how you doing? I'm here for you. And so developing a group program. The challenge for me, with developing a group program as it comes to weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
it's so personal for everyone.
Yes. Yes.
And it's, to me, I feel it's hard for us to all open up in front of a lot of people.
Yes.
So right now, one-on-one makes a lot of sense
Mm-hmm.
to get to the deep cause of the problem.
Yes.
I want to try to find a way to make that happen in a group setting in a
Mm-hmm.
way that respects the process, but also respects the person. So that's what I'm working on from that standpoint.
Nice. I love that. Nice. Nice. Because there is a philosophy that I've always, stand by and hold, which goes back to what God would have said from in the beginning of the book Genesis. Two is better than one.
Yeah.
Um, and so community, I believe we can attain so much more as a community than standing alone in a corner. The famous saying I heard several times growing up: "No man is an island. No man stands alone." But yeah, I think that is awesome, 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 awesome to bring it to a group setting that even if you're not there, just to even step back at times as the group grows and to see them just being there for them and basically kind of coaching each other, like, we can do this. Love that, Jeremy. Awesome.
Okay.
um you made mention you had something else that you are working on that's coming up, no?
I'm always working on.
While we chatted in Messenger.
Oh, we got the books, we got the stuff. I am also. It's apart from this.
Okay.
It with both kids being on the spectrum.
Yes.
I am working on is going to launch here in Q3 a for sort of family coaching process with my wife and I
Oh,
for neurodiversity. So for neurodiverse families,
yes.
whether it's the parents are looking at their child possibly getting a diagnosis and don't know what to do,
Awesome.
we can help coach through that because as autistic parents, we know
Yes.
what's going on.
Yes.
With us also having neurodiversity as adults, me being on the spectrum with my ADHD and with everything else, like
Yes.
if you're an adult and you're looking at possibly getting diagnosed,
Yes.
what does that look like? Well,
Awesome.
we can help with that. And then my wife, who's just kind of the rock of the family, like what does it look like to be the typical in this box full of unique crayons?
Yes.
So the side from the wellness and the weight loss is going to
Mm.
be the neuro family coaching as well.
Awesome.
So we're working on that also.
Love it, Jeremy. And I would be very honored to have both yourself and your wife return as you guys begin to dive into just bringing that another creation, guys,
Yeah.
another creation where you can serve others through this that God has, the seed that He has planted. Is like, no, what are you going to do, the seed? and you all have been fleshing it out and putting it together as a package to come forward. Really, I'm so pleased. Have a pop question that I'd love to ask you. And what is your definition of success? And it's not tied, it doesn't have to be tied to anything. So, okay, weight loss, success. No.
No,
Just generally, what's your definition of success?
I think it's as biblical as it is personal.
Hmm.
It's tied to the well done, good and faithful servant. It's not, did you win? It's not how many trophies. It's not what's your bank account.
Yeah.
It's for me going to bed knowing I did the best I could with what I have.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love the flow of our conversation because each time I ask you a question, it's kind of like you got a peek of the next question I was going to ask you and you touch on it. So even as you mentioned here in Well Done, Good and Faithful Servants, my next question to ask you is, what do you see the first words is going to be coming from you after you would have heard Well Done, Thou Good and Faithful Servant to Jesus? Like, what would be your response to him? Yeah. What do you think your response would be to him?
But made it. That's probably going to be it.
I love it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Jeremy, it has been just such a pleasure. And I just love how we just flowed and you just sharing, sharing, sharing. I believe what you have is rich. And thank you. Thank you for answering the call to be the creator. And this series was born out of a study that I've been doing on Genesis, and where God, in the beginning, God showed up. The first thing he did, he created. And as it went on close to the ending of the book, he created us in his image and his likeness. And he just brought it, boom, we are creators. He created creators. And he's calling for the creators to come, step out, let us see, serve yourself, serve your family, serve mankind. And I want to thank you very much for answering that call to serve others, because you could have gone through and had your success and just decide, okay, I'm going to keep it to myself. But you decided you answered that call to create something from your personal experience that serve others. And thank you for that. I appreciate. Any last closing words you want to leave with us? Leave with the folks who are watching or watching after?
I'm not often speechless. Very few people thank me for that stuff. So thank you for thanking me. No,
Yes. Welcome.
what came to mind, and I don't even know if this is the right thing to say, but even if you look at the disciples,
Yes.
they were given the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of God created creators.
Yeah.
And so if I have a parting word, I think it would be something along those lines of, if, and not if, we all have calls to go forth and make disciples.
True.
It's just, how are we doing that?
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart that there's a lot of people who are not answering that call
Yeah.
because they're subconscious about the way they look and how they feel because of it.
You're so on point.
And so the last thing I'm going to say as it pertains to that is, if that is you or them, then there's probably something stirring that needs to be addressed, not for the sake of legalism, but
Yes.
for the sake that you can have the health and wellness that you deserve, so that
Yes.
you can go forth and make disciples, because
Absolutely.
that's why we're here. So if I can help in any way, I would love to. Please let me know.
Yes.
And if not me, then find someone, because we're meant to live, not just survive.
Yeah. Say that again. Like, come
We're
on.
meant to live, not just survive.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. I hope you guys heard that. We're meant to live, not just survive. Notice Christ died, but he rose up and he lived again and continues to live even this present moment. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
love it, love it, love it. Jeremy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. There's one last thing I wanted for you to do, and that is to share with the folks how can they get in touch with Jeremy Rochford.
Most direct way would be go to rochfordwellnessacademy.com.
Yes.
Shoot me an email, fill out the get in contact form, however you like. That goes directly to me. So rochfordwellnessacademy.com.
Hmm.
And if I can help in any way, let me know, whether it's on the weight loss side, maybe you are on the spectrum, maybe you've got some family and friends on the spectrum and you're like, I don't want to forget it, but I can't wait till July. Shoot me a message there and we'll talk when the time's right. So whether it's the weight loss, the wellness, or the neurodiverse side of things,
Yes.
rochfordwellnessacademy.com. Fill out a form, get in touch, and I will get back to you.
Awesome. Awesome. And just in case you missed it or you didn't have a pen or anything to write it down, somewhere around this video on whichever platform you're listening, whether at the top or at the bottom, you'll see Jeremy's email there as well as the website. So go ahead and reach out. You know, if your baby leaped as he was speaking, you got to get in touch with him. Go ahead. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here with us again. It was indeed a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me. My jaw is hurting from smiling so much. So thank you.
That's good. That's something good, right?
Very good.
Awesome. So, guys, we'll see you again next week, same time, same place, right here on the Win Win Life Talk Show and Podcast. Remember to share, like, follow, subscribe. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of the Sunday afternoon. Okay, we seem to be having a bit of a glitch there, so we're going to use our backup. Bye now, guys. You have a wonderful rest of the Sunday afternoon.